to find information on stuff makes a difference. So the reason I had used it a while, I stopped using it. There's a lot of discrepancies, not too surprisingly, but between how much scrap people get from certain sectors. Mechlos did like a breakdown of Sector 4, and like Uncharted was like one of the worst sectors in the game, which wasn't surprising. But Mechlos did some things where like I think they were fighting stores, and I think they were kind of like diving at the exit, so their numbers were like a little bit off, it felt like. Assuming that I have all that right, like I thought, I was like, wow, they kind of look high, like across the board, and Mike kind of broke it down as Mike would, and like I said, the numbers seemed like a little bit high, but it was like standard, like it was a little bit high across everything, so the orders wouldn't have changed. And then like Sleeping Dragon's numbers are just so different. Like Civilian's still the best sector, which shouldn't be a surprise, but like Uncharted was their second best of sector. No free stuff in 6 and 7. Yeah, 5, 6. Yeah, I mean, like 388 though. That's good money. That's pretty good money. This is some decent money at the end. Again, I wouldn't say there was like super crazy standouts. Like we got the double ion intruder, the free firebomb. I mean, we bought all of our weapons. Like everything we used, we bought. Right, that's another thing, is the buying of long-range scanners, which, as you know, I do not buy long-range scanners almost all the time. I do not buy long-range scanners. So, like, that can make Uncharted Nebulas better sectors. Civilian, yeah, so the reason civilian sectors are considered the best sectors, like, scrap average-wise, is really high because they have nebulas. And they're like good nebula jumps, and they have 2 to 3 stores. Though, yeah, blue options are like not super relevant. Crow, do you buy scanners if you're seeing lots of purple on the map? It's hard for me to really justify a spot to buy scanners, much like it's hard to find a spot to buy scrap recovery arm. Though scrap recovery arm is easier to hate on because its value is far less and its investment cost is much higher. Like long range scanners are going to make you so much more money. They take so much less value, like less scrap. In terms of how I play and my approach to it, like I just can't figure out to spend $30 that I'm going to need when I need $30. And I never expect FTL to get nice or get good. People get like 120, like they get 200 scrap in Sector 1. They're like, I'm ahead. And then they spend money, and then FTL is just like, oh, it'd be a shame if you only made 50 scrap next sector and then made only 70 the next one after that. And it's rare that that's going to occur, particularly if you do pick up long-range scanners and then you start chasing fights. But how I scout sectors and how I want to put my money into my ships, like that's so predetermined. Again, I do have a video about, I probably don't have a command. I'm going to guess a command. It's probably not going to be correct. Good. Routing gets forced for a lot of scouting swords. Yeah. So there's my YouTube channel, and I do have some like tutorial videos and where I can go like in depth and explain things and have some aids when applicable. Yeah, like I don't know. Let me put it this way. I have played 338 runs of FTL in my attempt to do 13 runs with every ship. 338 runs of FTL. Of those 338 runs of FTL, I have won 327 of them, losing 11, which puts me at a 96.75% win rate. Of those 11 losses, one was I shouldn't have taken a fight because it was Mantis B. One was The stealth C, where I don't know if you don't take that pirate fight. That fight was disgusting. Nothing else I could have done that run. I mean, Mike looked at it and was like, "Hey, here's like this idea. It wouldn't have saved you, but maybe in another run it would be helpful." I was like, "Cool, it's a good idea." On like a repair delay tactic. Fed C, don't remember the Fed C run. Like I can point to like what cost me those runs. I mean, here's the scary thing. There still was like, it wasn't RNG as much as people would want it to be. Like 4 or 5 of those runs, I could have done better. Like I might have been able to live. So like 6 of those runs were RNG. Long range scanners wouldn't have saved me in any of those runs. So knowing that long range scanners doesn't save any of the runs that I lost, and knowing that I'm adverse to getting them and I still win, I can't see the like much of a chance that they're like a good pickup. Like they might be a win more thing. There could be some situations where it would void hazards that would be particularly nasty. There was one time where they did void an asteroid field in a Zoltan sector, and that was good that happened. And again, I'm not talking about it on stealth ships when you don't have shields. Long range scanners are very important in that situation. But it's like, I don't know what else I can do. When almost 97% of my runs, the 11 losses, I could pinpoint that long-range scanners would not have saved a single one of them, and then be like, so when are you going to buy long-range scanners, Crow? I don't, and it doesn't matter. So why would I ever invest in something that isn't going to improve my win rate? Now, again, it's important to note, does buying long-range scanners mean you're going to die a horrible screaming death? Nope. Not at all. Again, a lot of people buy long-range scanners, snap buy them, and have good win rates, have excellent win rates, 80% win rates. I think Hollow's buys long-range scanners definitely more than I do. They have absurd numbers in win rates. I read twice as long as my second best. I have long runs too. Boy, they can get, in terms of real time, yeah. It's like, that's always why I kind of like marvel at like Mike's ability. Like Mike takes it to just such a level where it's just like I have a 5-hour run, and that's a really long run. They're normally somewhere like 3.5-hour runs or something along those lines, 3.5, 4 hours, depending on how much I talk, how much I got to clone, how stressful it is. And then like Mike just does like these shieldless or no reactor runs, and it's just like, all right, here's a 3-hour fight, settle in. Not a run, a fight. Nebulas are very bad in Zoltan sectors. They're like very, very bad in Zoltan sectors, like in terms of like event generation. So what's really cool is like when I was learning to play FTL, I'm still learning to play FTL, that's what we're talking. When I was playing FTL, there was a time where people were trying to get the first cycle in no pause. And so this was Jorbs, Scott Onesie Wilson, the Farb, Dolphin Chemists, even Necro Rebel, and I guess Britnuth was there too. Britnuth wasn't streaming. And 3-hour fight. Yeah. Mike says them. If you're going shieldless, it's just such a totally different beast. I'm like so out of my element. I'm like, oh, is this an idea? And then Mike's like, all right, there's like 80 reasons why that's no good. Mostly just because you keep forgetting that you don't have shields. And I'm like, oh, right. Yeah, that's an important thing. Never mind. And your priorities just completely are different. And I was like, I would watch all these players keep playing, keep runs, and figuring out like what was working, what wasn't working for them, and trying to like implement it into my game. And in terms of like growing, like that was how I was learning. I mean, I did my own runs, but essentially I was watching 5-6 other like amazing players and trying to take all that stuff and get better. But at that point in time, a lot of it was just experience play. People did things because they thought they were good, and they could point at times to really specific elements within their game of like why something was a good decision or why something was a bad decision. But you could look back and be like, and notice that collectively a lot of bad decisions were being made that were considered the meta at the time. And now, because we go with like, they're going through the coding of the game and coming up with some stuff, we're like, oh, now we know like how good of an idea something actually is, or how bad of an idea is, or how we can kind of like change things or different ways to approach it. Where like weapon hacking wasn't that big of a thing. Like most people weren't hacking weapons. If you notice this run, we hacked weapons a lot more than anything else. We very, very rarely hack shields, which is like automatic. As far as like, again, Nebula stuff, there's like the piloting upgrade that gets talked about a lot, and because everybody remembers when it has value, and very few people remember when it kills them because they can't buy something in a store. That happened to me. Couldn't buy something in a store. I just flat out ignored a store early on and died horribly in Sector 2 on NGA. And then Thomas is like, hey, Crow, what's up? I noticed you skipped a store because you blew $20 on 3 Nebula jumps that didn't get you anything. Maybe a weapon would have been good. And it's like, oh yeah, that store is more likely to have panned out to have the weapon than that. I should stop doing that. So I stopped doing it. It's never killed me. So not bringing it back. You know, sometimes I do it late in a run because it's just like, or maybe there's like, but most of the time, like if it's worth like getting the 20 scrap, then it's probably just worth rolling the crew for, like things like that. But yeah, so like Nebula jumps, like what's a noob trap, what's not a noob trap, that it could potentially change. We are further along in figuring things out to be more consistent. We're worried about kind of more little things, more nuanced things. Like ways that I improve my game are things that aren't going to matter probably maybe 1 out of 100 runs. Like that's exciting if it's like a 1%er. A lot of stuff it just doesn't. But you keep on adding it in, and then maybe maybe it saves run. That's all you can do. And having that approach versus like grand design, grand meta shifts, that could happen though. Like something new could come out that changes an approach to the game. Again, it's really hard to say that that's going to be a thing when you have people who are winning nearly 97% of their runs and like over a very long period of time, right? You know, you can get good runs for like 100, maybe even 200, but you know, I don't know when's the statistically significant number of runs, but you can just get people where like between myself, between Hollow, Mike, others, you could just be like, all right, so here's what they are doing collectively, and they're only losing like 2 to 3% of the runs overall. So chances are it's not a lot easier to get a lot better than that. And then it's like what Mike does is Mike pays attention to like shooting down missiles and shooting down drones, is very active about those kinds of things and paying attention to it and paying more attention to all the little timings that are going on in the game. And I just kind of wing it. I do. I'm just like, all right, I get this in between this. I can fire once during their first cycle and then twice before their second cloak, or like if they're cloaking, so they'll cloak and then I get one volley, they cloak and then I get another volley on my weapons. But if you actually paid attention, you know how fast your reloaders are firing, you could like go like, okay, these are all the timings and here's the weapon travel timings, and I can move my weapons in the weapon slot so they reach faster. That's a thing I use every once in a while, but I think if I wanted to be like better, that's something I could like be more active about in terms of my tool. But again, it's not like how many fights is that going to actually make a difference? Winging it? Yeah, I mean, yes and no. Like I had to stop weapon hacking because like I just started just weapon hacking all the time. Like I wasn't even doing like proper fight assessments. I was like, danger, maybe hack weapons, and then I'd be like, actually I could have just done this and then I would have been fine, but I didn't want to think about it, or I just You know, again, a lot of it is just like experiences versus like really technical knowledge breakdowns. Is why my value video took me so long to make. The reason the value video took me so long to make is I had to come up and build the like infrastructure of the logic between the decisions. I know that they work, and my numbers show that they work more so than like every single other FT player in the world, save 4 or 5 people, you know? And it's just like, all right, so how do I explain how this actually works? And that took time. That took me a lot of time to be like, all right, so here's the core, here's how this is gonna be explained. I have to, do I even know what scrap averages for sectors are? No. So let's figure out what that is. Let's go. Okay, now that we have that kind of base number and know what all the loadouts for the like starting upgrades for ships, like I have my list of what I did, but Hollow and Mike had some differences between mine, and Mike, when looking through, was like, you very politely was like, you may come off like you're saying your ways are completely correct, and there are people who have differences than yours. And I was like, yep, that's totally fair. So then I had to read through Mike's guide about weapon upgrade or ship upgrades, all 28, and then Hollow's, and then like go through mine. I was like, all right, so this is how this is going to get structured, and like put a lot of structure to stuff that I kind of just do it because it works. It's really weird that my general philosophy, like I said, is like, oh, did something maybe kill me? Okay, I should just not do that. Not what are the chances it's statistically going to get me killed. I don't care. I don't care about that. I don't care. Well, that's only going to get you killed 0.01% of the time. Maybe. Nobody even really... That may be the only time in the history of ever that got you killed. Cool, but I never did it again, and it never got me killed again. So that's the grand philosophy that I have. That got me killed once. Don't do that. I saw that get somebody else killed once. Don't do it. That's it. That's all. And then just remembering what all those things are. And then playing for 4,000 hours and mentally being able to like grind out runs. You know? That's it. That's all it is. And now there's like more mathematical, like I said, I do have like more structure to it, and I can be like, all right, so this is why this like works or why this is better. But after a while, like I said, it's just what it is. What other mods? So I also have this mod, this mod for the tracking, and I also use Cheat Engine. We didn't use it this run. But Cheat Engine, there's a little thing right here. Can I bring it up on the screen? Yeah, so this thing, Cheat Engine 7.5. So what this does, in purposes of FTL, is we can speed up the frame rate of the game so we can farm crew faster. I am not doing another run, no. We're just like talking. So it's predominantly, it is just a time saver. Particularly if you're streaming. When I got my second cycle, I didn't use any mods at all. I don't use Fleet Pursuit Indicator. Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, fair enough. And again, it's disputed. Like this, the only thing that would be discussed about this is if your game crashed and you pulled up a save from Save Game Manager, does that count as a streak ender? And here's a fun fact. I have a script. I have a 10-page script that I put together like 2 weeks ago to talk about how to officially do FTL win streaking. But I realize that some people might not take some of the comments that I have not for what they were, because there would be certain discrepancies on how people utilize certain terminology or how they view certain things, and it was going to maybe be seen as a problem. It does make the game easier. So, like I said, I was doing a modless cycle, and on the 28th run, I had a Zoltan C run where I farmed against Heavy Ion, and it took 70 minutes. We sat here for 70 minutes. Now, like I said, as a person who uses cheat engine to speed up the game rate, here are the things to be concerned about. One, due diligence. Due diligence is a term that gets thrown around a lot, and a lot of people don't actually do due diligence. So I don't know how good of an excuse it is. And you're like assuming that you would have trained there normally. Some people did no training ever, like they didn't train crew, and then they got cheat engine, and then they started training crew. It's like, well, that's not really due diligence in that case, but so what, right? Like what? I need them to do a run where they train their, how many times does somebody have to sit and train their crew before they get to claim due diligence using cheat engine to farm up dodge experience and weapon training? Like, that's silly. Like, technically it makes sense in terms of the argument, but it's silly. And these are things I talk about in my 10-page script. So there's that argument. And then due diligence also has a lot of problems on what knowledge you can have. Like, hey, due diligence means you know all the timing of all the weapons, so you should be able to just put that on your screen. So essentially run with like Free Sensors 3 on your ship. Because you know what the timing is. You know what crew are on what ship, so you know what all their weapon timings are. Oof. So you can do some stuff with that. So like it can get to a weird place that we aren't there yet. We haven't picked it up yet, but maybe we could be. And then even furthermore, like people who can do cross training, like I don't cross train except on like NGB, but other people are like, well, might as well. It could potentially provide an advantage. I've like very, very seldom seen it. Like it really does make it easier. Sure. So there's that. Two is that it alters the game. Like the drones don't function. Like they can get a little wonky. Like you could break something in the game. And so something doesn't work like it's intended to work. Mike did a video where he shot down a DD2, like a Defense Drone 2, once with speed hacking, once without speed hacking. So like it showing that it was possible to do it without the hacking kind of makes me think that's not a thing, but that's not the same thing as it never being a thing or having no impact. So it could be the case that there is a way that it still screws up or makes something a little bit more likely, but again, that still would seem to fall into the category of just being a time save. And again, nobody's used it that way, where no one's been like, all right, hold on, I'm going to use a cheat engine to like screw up the drones of the enemy ships. Like if you made that announcement, people would be a little bit like, that's a bit sus. That's not really what it is, right? And then the third thing is apparently how you get drops is taken in part from frame rate data. So you could perhaps use cheat engine to manipulate frame rates to manipulate the items that you get in game via drops. Nobody knows how that works. As far as I know, nobody knows how to get an impact. No one knows how let alone how to get cheat engine to do that, but there's an argument that could be made. Those are the three that I know of, and I'm somebody who uses cheat engine. I use cheat engine because I don't want people sitting here for half an hour. But I want to get my training because I see it as incredibly important to get level 2 engines for free, to get to my 100% dodge evasion with cloak as soon as possible, and like my FTL charge faster. You always inside that out. Some people take hundreds of hours to win. Yeah, so like a whole thing about that. Like that, like so now, like you know, in terms of just like craziness, is like people going for cycles. Like the fact that people just go for cycles now is so nuts. Like it shows how we've collectively, you know, it's not all just me. I mean, it's mostly me. Like I'm doing all the heavy lifting, but others have contributed. But how the community has come and just improved the meta and improved ideas so much that people are just like, oh, like I think I'm gonna get a cycle, and then they get a cycle in like 500 hours or 400 hours of playing, and it's just like, how? I know Rakagak got a cycle in no pause in like 500 hours. And I was like, that's crazy because most people play like thousands of hours before they get a cycle, before you think of getting a cycle, and good reason. And now there's like a couple people who've gotten cycles definitely well under 1,000 hours of FTL play. Frank lost on 24. Yeah, it was the NGB. I haven't looked at that run. I was away for a week. I watched the Ran Deaths double on Stealth B and Stealth C. I watched part of them anyways. No, ask ridiculous questions. I'm one of the best people you can ask ridiculous questions about in FTL. So if you don't ask me, who are you gonna ask? Who are you? That's what I do. But yeah, like it's just kind of bonkers. They're clowns, mammals. It depends on what porpoise the clown is. I love people asking questions. So a cycle is winning all 28 ships in a row. It's generally been believed that you should do it on hard mode, but there's like never been like a really specific thing that it says it has to be done on hard mode, because like somebody like Mike has a cycle on Twinge's balance mod. Somebody might have a cycle on easy. I had thought about doing that. Like that could be kind of a fun little idea. But it's generally just the idea. It's just winning all 28 ships in a row without a loss. And like I said, I was going to make a guide to kind of try to explain all the ins and outs, the helps, the hindrances, and kind of try and change perspective. Because some of the perspective, like I said, like Cheat Engine is called Cheat Engine. A lot of people really hate Cheat Engine. And then other people just are kind of dismissive, like Cheat Engine doesn't change anything. And I'm like, that's not fair. Like I use it, but anybody that's using any mod, you're getting a benefit from it. Of course you are. That's why you're using it. Game goes to my first cycle, 22 more to go. Hey, even like this is a game that before Advanced Edition came out, the devs were like, maybe people will win 10% of their games. And now we're like, maybe I'll win 28 times in a row. Timer player sanity is a resource? Yeah, no, 100%. You know, it's like there's a discrepancy between random and picking your own ships. And there's some people who have a very weird idea what the word random means. But we're not going to get into that because I want to go to bed eventually. But in terms of like some people do random, like I do random, and then some people like pick their ships. I did that. I did a 30 streak where I picked all my ships. I picked Stealth B last because screw you, FTL. I do it my own way. But like the problem, so random is seen as like better because you're not doing all the hard ships early to increase the likelihood of your cycle being successful without wasting. But it's not really what it does. What it does is it saves time, right? Like if you do Lanius B first every single run, it's like, why are you wasting your time doing Laney B? You know you're going to win Laney B. You know you're going to win NGC. Minus very, very rare cases. So what you want to do in terms of likelihood of completion of cycles, you want to run your Stealth Bs, your NGBs, Stealth Cs. You want to run those ships first so you're not wasting time on ships you're generally just going to win. So that's what random does, is like you might get Stealth B as your 28th ship, and depending on your win rate, it could just be a coin toss that you win 27 in a row, and to get this cycle is at best is a coin flip. Like that's brutal. On the other hand, and again I can speak from this experience, if you're doing the picking of your own ships, it is mentally grueling to play the garbage ships over and over and over. Yes, Scott was the first person to get a cycle in no pause, stream-wise. Dreadnought was in the same area. Just keep rolling till you get Stealth B to start a random streak. Again, I would be here for a while. Page and a half of my 10 pages was about that. Like no, I don't get it. Cause like, so the crazy part, without getting into it, the crazy part is this. There's no big difference between picking your ships and randomizing. It's not, this is super ultra elite if you randomize it versus you picking your ships. If you pick your ship and you go Stealth B loss, okay, let's try again. Stealth B win, Rock A win, Stealth C loss. Stealth B win, stealth C loss, stealth B loss, stealth B loss, stealth B win, stealth C wins, rock A win, NGB loss. Like you do that and you grind it out where you've played stealth B 50 times in a month, stealth C 40 times in a month, NGB 38 times in a month, but you only played Lanius B like twice, and being like, yeah, that's the easier way of doing it. No, that is not the easier way of doing it. It's more efficient, but it is I can't even imagine saying that's the easier way of doing it. Like that's so, I tried that. I tried running like stealth B at the start of runs, and what happened was as every time a cycle ended, I was like, now I gotta play stealth B again. Now I just gotta play stealth B again. And then I go play stealth B, and then it's just like, please don't lose, because I'm gonna play stealth B again. And you can just get burnt out. Again, some people can do it mentally. Like, you know, picking your ships and randomizing is really nice because you can, is still nice because you can be like, I'm just not in the mood to do something. Right? Yeah. Yeah. No. It's that you just get, like some people just like do 3 randoms and then pick. Again, it's so, like, let me put it this way. Thomas Peterson has an 80 win streak in pause, and they picked their ships. I think, if I recall correctly, Billy Wynn Kirby picked his ships and hit like 64. I mean, who cares if they were picked? You did a triple cycle. Thomas did a triple cycle. He beat Stealth B 3 times. Do I care it was at the start of every cycle streak? No! He beat Stealth B 3 times in a row while also not losing on another 70 ships. Like, what are we talking about here? It's not like the end-all, be-all. Don't make it that way. But I get it, because like I said, so here's the other like really disgusting thing. Let's say you are as perfect as you can be in FTL, 98% win rate. Let's go with that, 98% win rate. Do you know what your chances of completing a cycle are? 56%. 56% at a 98% win rate. Okay, that's pretty good. So it's better than a coin toss. You know what happens if you drop to a mere 95%? You're just three percentage points less. Well, you know, those players are kind of close in skill, right? It's kind of the same thing, 24%. You lose more than half your chance of getting a cycle by dropping 3%. And when you hit 85% win rate, it's 1. It's a 1% chance of cycle. So if someone's starting Stealth B to effectively double their chances of getting a cycle because they're a coin toss with it, they go from 1% to 2%. Whoop-de-doo. Alright, playing Rose, you're in how serious defense stat is? Yeah, like it is. Some games can roll one way, and another game, FTL has definitely more the like defense is your pathway forward. Sometimes you can go pure offense and get there. Ironically, with like some Ion builds, you can really go aggressive offensively. Yeah, but at least I can at least like Stealth B at least is a glass cannon. It is what it says it is. I don't know what Stealth C is. Doesn't even have cloaking. What is that? Yeah, glaive cannon. Yeah, so like it's not, if you want to pick your first ship and then random the rest, whatever. Again, I don't care, like, because you still had to beat all 28. Like at the end of the day, you still had to beat all the 28, and 28 is 28 is 28. Like there's no getting around that. You have to go through the 28. So, you know, 27 people have claimed to do it. Get there at some point. And yeah, like, yeah, you know, and the whole, like, how picking your ships becoming a thing, it's like there's so many other things that are more advantageous. Well, I put an asterisk next to the number, though. It's bad for your sanity. I mean, there is no, like, I know I took over the tracking from Thomas because I didn't even really know the early history. I didn't play before Advanced Edition came out. So, like, there's, like, I had no idea who, like, No Quit and, like, Meklos and those people. Like, I don't know them. I've never watched them. And I just make a discrepancy between pause and no pause. That's it. That's all I do. Because I know if I put up anything, in part, I think it's unfair to try and force rules after the fact. Like, hi, I'm Crow Ravel here, and I've decided to make up the rules for the official FTL. Like, that's not going to go over well. I did a survey a couple years ago trying to see if there would be universal rules, and everybody was like, no, absolutely not. We don't want universal rules. I can play FTL the way I want to play FTL. Fair enough. Wait, don't answer that. It's a personal challenge. Like, who's gotten big off getting cycles? Who's the best cycler? Okay, that's easy. It's Hollow. We gonna have an argument about whether that's true or not? Because it's Hollow. Because it's Hollow Shadime. Hollow Shadime can't even get partnered on Twitch. Now, that's not a knock against Hollow. Don't twist it as that. But Hollow crushes FTL. Crushes FTL cycles. Has cycles in 20 hours or whatever. Just absolute absurdity that he does. Has a 124 streak, you know? No one, I'm just saying, no one's making bank off FTL via getting cycles. It doesn't die to Stealth B. Yeah, Stealth B. Good old Stealth B. I don't know. Yeah, I guess he doesn't do much FTL anymore. There's some new people. Frank FC streaming. Rand's trying to go for a cycle. Hit 24 twice. Sleeping Dragons is probably doing cycles. I think Sleeping Dragon got a third cycle. Rand's been going at it for a while. I mean, I think we all technically go at it for a while. For like a month, yeah. I know Necro Rebel stopped playing as well. I tend to be doing other things. You feel a bit sorry for Rand because he's been going close for long. I have things I could say in terms of Rand kind of getting there and whatnot. And like he's done a lot to get where he is. He's gotten really, really far. I think there's still some pretty obvious, to me, as a crazy, crazy, crazy top tier FTL player, that are kind of a hindrance, and it's probably not inherently what everybody else thinks they are. Yeah, but the 224s, like that's like it's rough getting that close. And speaking of someone who's gotten 27 and would have been the sixth person to get a cycle when I died on ship 28 and then watched 10 other people get cycles before me. That's true. I got to 27-0, died on ship 28, 10 people got cycles, and it took me 2 years. I had to get my win rate over 89% before I got my cycle. And then I kept getting better. So yeah, like it's hard, and there's like it was Zoltan C. It was Zoltan C. Like Zoltan C was weird back then because there really, in some degree, there still isn't. There isn't a lot of consensus on what are the proper upgrading paths. And I ran into like 3 ship killer ships, but I'm pretty sure I probably upgraded shields, which I wouldn't do now. And I actually got lucky because I jammed myself. Like I couldn't upgrade the weapons the way that I wanted to, and I realized that I was going to run into 2 shielded ships and be behind, and then I just died. Is it possible to tracking? Oh, I just track with a spreadsheet. Like there's also a save editor that you can just like change any numbers you want. Like you can just get a screenshot and say anything you want. Like in terms of, I can bring it over here. Will I still be on top? Oh, I'm still on top. It's the best. Yeah, like So there's all the wins those are all my runs at FTL. All of them, and then what sectors I died, which was important to figure out which sectors are dangerous. That's all of the ships and the win streaks of the various ships. That's when I thought I got a lot better and was far more consistent. This was actually before I got my first cycle, and this was essentially starting out my first cycle. There's all the numbers for my runs, notes about how I died. These are just the runs from the 13 with every ship layout. In terms of averages, I'm missing some numbers. Also, I think missing a row. This is Scrap Tracker, which I just started doing for these runs to try and figure out scrap averages on a sector by sector basis for my play style. Compiled win rates of multiple players who I asked to use their numbers for. A couple players who I haven't asked yet to use their numbers. These are the number of cycles that have been completed. Like I said, the only discrepancy it shows which ones are no pause. The little asterisk. That's it. Doesn't say if they use Fleet Pursuit Indicator. Doesn't say they read the wiki. Doesn't say that they streamed it. Just people are like, hey, I did it. I'm like, cool. All right. Again, if you're like, it's kind of funny how Hollow killed it. Because people and kind of shifted where people really wanted to be like a cycle for notoriety, and I understand what it is. So hard to not read the wiki. So yeah, the wiki, the wiki is a huge advantage. I almost died Rock B recently, and if I had read the wiki about that event, I wouldn't have gotten in trouble in Sector 1. I thought I knew it, and I didn't. But the fact that the wiki will tell you the chances of an event outcome, which you wouldn't really know via your own personal testing, is huge. It's massively good. Super good. Super nice to know. And I can't keep track of events. I might keep track of, I always argue that I would just start creating a list of things of events that are problematic and remember them, but I would want them. Chewbacca. Chewbacca apparently doesn't use the wiki, which is amazing and honestly the funniest thing in FTL I've ever heard. Chewbacca doesn't use the wiki. And you know why that's funny? If you know why that's funny, then you know it's really funny. All the no pause streaks ending around 30? Yeah. Pretty consistently 30-31 is the no pausing stuff. This was the iOS, so this was with pause, but 31. Rank FC got exactly 28. Oh, here's another thing. Here's another thing that's about streaks, and I was going to talk about Amishi. This is this part isn't the controversial stuff. It's this. Nobody knows how hard a streak was. Nobody knows. Oh, I think most people customize theirs. They have to customize them to some extent because hacking's in a weird spot. I think there's little differences between individual players and certain preferences, but I'm pretty sure that they do some rebindings. At the very least, they make sure that spacebar is not pause, so they don't accidentally hit that. And then, of course, you also should rebind your middle mouse button because that's pause too, or pause as well. Same difference. But oh, what I was saying. People are like, oh, this was random. If somebody does a selected streak, but the runs are just absolute slogs, they're just disgusting and they're brutal and awful, and then someone would be like, you didn't random it. Well, the person who random it, maybe they got a free pre-igniter for Stealth B. They got a free Flak 1 for Rock A, in Sector 1, and it was easy. Does anybody... Oh, hey, Badger, by the way. Hello. How's it going? Speaking of cycles. Yeah, it wasn't an amazing run, but it was a solid run. It was just things lined up so there really wasn't too much of a challenge. I almost screwed up a fight because I forgot that I was supposed to be playing FTL. But yeah, hope you're well. To go through all the runs and be oh, actually, this run was easy. This run was hard. So here, you like numbers? Here's fun run. These are the good numbers. Let's go back. Boom. Okay, so this is my 27 streak. Look at all the sub 5K scores. All one of them. That was it. There was a Federation A, and then I died. But every single one of these was above 5K. 26 5K plus runs. Okay. Then we get to losses, struggling, 2 years, 2 years, 2 years. Oh, that one kind of stunk. Boom. We get a cycle. Let's check out this. This is 28, and there's like runs in between. But okay, so there was death. 1 sub 5K. 2 sub 5K. 3 sub 5K. 4 sub 5K. So I got to 27 with only 1, and then this one cost me 4. Oh man, that's so good. That's so easy. And then we get to, oh, this one's fun. 30. This is my 30. 1, almost. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I picked those. I picked that 30. I picked those and got 7 sub 5K scores. Yeah, including this abomination with NGB 4315. I picked it, and you're gonna be like, oh, that isn't as impressive as my 27 because it was randomized? What are you even talking? Like, do you know? Nobody knows. Nobody has any idea. Doesn't get 7K until they is doing it wrong. Sometimes. Yeah, that was another part of the video, is people being like, oh, you didn't randomize. Like, are really you gonna... Now, again, that's because I'm just more consistent, so I win in bad runs, and I play differently. I play more conservatively. In some instances where I just turn down things, I'm like, I don't want to do that fight. But other times, I just get absolutely annihilated by bad RNG. Yeah, I've never played League of Legends. I maybe watched 10 minutes of League of Legends. I'm the champion. I play the most. FTL's funny that way. Compiled. Oh yeah, tier list by a bunch of other players. This I just find is like kind of fascinating, because I always like, could you explain your decision? And normally it just comes down to, I like this ship and I don't like that ship. Okay, cool. This was all the numbers in terms of like the upgrades for my first cycle and all the weapons that I got, which weapons were common. Weapon notes guide, and when I was trying to figure out how ion storms worked. $43.15 in the nearly first cycle? Oh, I would have been dead. I would have been super dead. I would have been the deadest of deads, most likely. Diversity, like, in terms of how cool they are, is worse for me the more effective the champion in the meta is. That's cool. Like, I mean, FTL, because you're just doing 28 is 28, so you gotta run through them all. If you want that distinction, you don't have to. You can play, like, heavily modded versions and, I don't know, have fun. That's totally okay. But the other thing in terms of like officials, like, no one's gonna go through runs and determine, like, Hollow has the fastest cycle, and it's like I said, it's like 20 hours, 19 hours, whatever. Someone's gonna go look through that 19 hours of runtime and be like, all that RNG checks out. Like, huh, didn't run any low scrap rewards that sector. That's super unlikely. Oh, they got more weapons percentage-wise than they should have normally in stores. There's like totally subtle things you could do that are like impossible to track, to know. And then the other problem is, if you're streaming, then you're also getting backseating, even if you don't want it. It's gonna happen. Does that count? If you tell somebody what they need to do to win a run in FTL, does that count for their cycle? How much can you tell somebody? Impossible to tell except on a large scale. Right, yeah, you need a large scale. You need to go through all of it, and nobody is. No one's gonna go through my cycles and be like, that, oh, look at that. Well, no, actually, no, that's not true. Everybody would just accuse me of hitting the mash button. Did you? Did you? How did you manage to get low scrap ever? All right. Look, it's like wearing weighted clothes, right? So like you can train, or like high gravitation. That's how I learned. That's how I trained to play FTL. I turned on Arsenal Plus actually has like things that even reduce scrap even more than normal. So you're only getting like 9 scrap a jump. And that's what I practice on. It's just that good. And that's the kind of mod I want. Yeah. No, it's just funny. But like, yeah, and like I said, that now people are just like, oh, you know what? I think I want to go for cycles. I think I just want to get a cycle. So, you know, this player gets cycles, this player gets cycles, this player gets cycles. Sleeping Dragons is getting cycles. Sleeping Dragons was killing it, though. Sleeping Dragons had like 5 losses in 100 runs of FTL. It's good. Compiling. And what's really cool is, this is me. When Flyer? I actually don't know how they say it. When they won, and they thank people, which I think is really cool. It's a thing I do, is I thank people who like helped me make a guide or something along those lines, or when I got through my first cycle. And you're like, I like to thank these players. I'm not mentioned in here, but like compiling is. And I mean, I get mentioned enough. But it was just like, it's really cool to see how players, like it used to be like, this is it. Like this was your inspiration. Like you were just looking at these. Like Thomas didn't stream much of them. So you're looking at your Scots, your Farbs. Did Retreat stream much of it? Chewbacca doesn't stream. Breathnaught doesn't stream. Burrito. Like that was kind of who you were looking for to get better. And then like they got their cycles, and a lot of them went on to do other things. And then other players came along, and then they got cycles, and that inspired new players to get cycles. And now even those players are inspiring new players to get cycles. And it's like, that is cool. It's so cool. This game it's a small studio. It's been around for 11 years. And there's like actually like generational like inspiration. And that's not to say that if you didn't get a cycle, you didn't inspire people. Because Mike inspires people and doesn't have one. This game is more than halfway able to vote. True. My mods to make it harder. Frame perfection ended up stop play because I had so much money, nothing interesting to buy. Sure. I mean, FTL is unfair, but it's like the perfect amount of unfair. It is just the somehow, some way, miraculously the perfect amount of unfair where you lose due to bad RNG and you want to play it again. You got to play it again. You got to get it one more roll. You're going to get in there and take it down. Like that's going to happen. Like you want your revenge, and it doesn't feel so completely arbitrary where you're like, it's just rolling dice. Feel like you've been online Reddit? Oh, I am never on like FTL Reddit. I'm very seldom on FTL Reddit. Utter BS. I get it. Like, well, again, I get that though. Like I do. I truly understand, because you don't know. Like helping people get better in FTL is like sometimes it's really easy, and then sometimes it's really hard because you're explaining stuff and they're like, no, it's bad. It's all RNG, and it's like. Trust me, this part isn't. A lot is, but this part isn't. Believe me. Have they played Darkest Dungeon? I remember Darkest Dungeon. Darkest Dungeon just takes too long. But I did get my my Blood Moon. I did do my Blood Moon playthrough. But yeah, like Darkest Dungeon is like you can just get absolutely steamrolled. But unless you're playing on the hardest difficulty, there's no like lost state. So there's certainly there's a lot of information gap. And like I said in my value video, seriously, watch the value video. It's a really good video. It's not just about scouting. Talking about how if you accept a certain amount of RNG existing in the game, and then your idea is that have an RNG element to it are fine, because you just assume that's the part of the RNG that's an element of the game. And then, like, but you get to a different mindset and you realize, like, oh, you can play around a lot more stuff than you thought you could, and you could actually taking less risk is a thing you can do. Like, a lot of people think, like, oh, if you don't take some risk, like, you're just going to die. And there's very specific instances where that's true, but generally not. And that's really hard to do. Are you playing as a mountain? That's a Magic reference. I don't even remember what it's called. Whatever. The hardest difficulty you had to beat it in X number of weeks. Card is literally called Blood Moon. That's true, it is. It's called Blood Moon. Blood Moon used to be like a joke card, and then it became like a huge like pain in the side in like the Eternal formats. It was really funny. God, I love talking about FTL. Oh my gosh. Crow, could you just talk about cycles for 2 hours? Sure. Hour and a half? Okay, I can do that. Why not? No, just minimize everything on my screen. That's also good. That's also super excellent. We can just do that. I should go. I should get some sleep. I also have lost chat in the process. 2 hours is great. I don't know as much about it as you do. I got it once. I did it once. I did it once run. Crow needs to teach college classes. Oh no, my brother already teaches at college. It's kind of fun to look through vicariously. Advanced culture, FTL society. I mean, there's so much. And like I said, it's kind of interesting because the people's processes at getting good at FTL now are just going to be completely different than what they used to be. And that's like another thing. Like, there are people who are just going to start hopping into FTL and they're just going to be like, all right, yeah, so I'm just going to be hacking weapons all the time. And it's just like, that's cheating. You have to suffer for like 2,000 hours before you figure out that hacking weapons is a good idea. That's not fair. And there are gonna be people who are like, oh, I'm gonna pass on like picking up crew because that's a high scrap reward. It's like, you didn't know. Somebody told you that. That's what happened. Like that, but that's how it is now. Like, that's just how it is going to be. Because when true story is that when I kind of started getting into FTL, and I started playing FTL mostly to stream, just because it was like something to stream, to try out streaming. Like, I just want to get rid of the bad information. I became keenly aware there was a lot of bad information in terms of the FTL community, and like, I knew I would say stuff that was wrong, and other players would say stuff that was wrong, and it was just like, dude, if we can just get rid of the bad information. And it was hard because people fought really hard to have that bad information. That's still only a very small part. It's getting there though, but I think like the newer players can glom onto that faster now, and they pick up these ideas quicker. So you keep buying my booth. All right, you do that, Patcher. You do that. Somebody's got to, right? Somebody's got to take those lost buoys in, put a good roof over their head. I don't need a 2-hour lecture. The ins and outs of streaking. 10-page script. Let's see if we can find somebody to raid. Like actual raid, like raid correctly, not me accidentally raid while I'm trying to shout out somebody. Like a competent streamer person, something or other. Maybe that's a thing. I get to raid Goblin Juggler. Oh, yes. / raid Goblin. Absolutely. They just came back to streaming. They are playing Return to Monkey Island. I think this is his updated version, so if you're trying to avoid spoilers, feel free to move on. But thanks for hanging out. Thanks for listening to an old man rant and rave about streaking in FTL. for some reason. After having a pretty smooth run, there was no reason to be any and no rage. No, there could have just been happy times. Old man yells at Crow. Yeah, kind of is. But yeah, probably back tomorrow. Back to doing normal schedule until I have to go buy comic books, as I always do. At some point, I think that's around the 3rd. But we'll find out. We'll get there when we get there. So, thank you all for hanging out. Thank you for raids, follows, host bits, subs, keeping me company with conversation or lurking. It's always appreciated. Hope to see y'all again soon. Take care. Good night. Be nice to Goblin Juggler.
I'm back again. Make me
Can you
this.
make me a key from this serial number?